South Africa's government has issued a strong warning over the growing number of people impersonating Home Affairs officials while targeting foreign nationals. Authorities say these actions are illegal and must stop immediately. Body speaking during a media briefing, Inter-Ministerial Committee on Migration chairperson Mamamoloko Kubai urged individuals and groups pretending to be immigration officers to end these activities at once. She stressed that only authorized Home Affairs and law enforcement officials have the legal power to carry out immigration enforcement. Kubai warned that taking the law into your own hands not only puts innocent people at risk, but also undermines the country's legal system. She called on members of the public to report suspected undocumented migrants through the proper government channels instead of confronting or intimidating people themselves. The government says it remains committed to addressing illegal immigration, but this must be done within the law and with respect for human rights. Outro. What are your thoughts on the government's warning? Should tougher action be taken against those impersonating officials? Share your opinion in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more breaking South African news.
We have observed that there are still individuals who impersonate Home Affairs officials and target foreign nationals and some businesses for these illegal identity searches, and some of them are starting to take the shape of extortion. We've seen a video that we have sent to subs to actually assist us in dealing with that, because we do believe that that is a criminal element and that is actually extortion. We want to urge whoever is involved in this wrong practice to desist from it or face the might of the law. We are glad to report that our law enforcement authorities acted swiftly in arresting about 7 of these individuals in Polokwane. And we would like to issue a stern warning to everyone who is involved in this to stop.
We have to continue to engage at the level of what you have said. It has been raised as an issue for the African Union. The AU has got a protocol on the free movement of persons, rights of residence and rights of establishment, often called the AU Free Movement Protocol, which is a landmark treaty adopted by the African Union in January 2018. It forms a core flagship project under the AU Agenda 2063, aimed at having a common and regulated approach on Africans' ability to travel, work, and live across the continent. It mandates states to modernize and coordinate border data and law enforcement and enhance anti-human trafficking system. SADC also has a similar protocol on the free movement of people, the facilitations of movements of persons. South Africa is one of the signatories. It has now been signed by about 7 countries in the SADC area. We still need about 9 to operationalize this protocol. So it means now we operate with one of the AU. But both protocols calls for regular and orderly migration, which is a point of emphasis, that migration must be orderly, must be regular, must also be legal, to enable economic activities to function, to work, to enable also the Africa Free Trade Area, which is the flagship of the African Union on Agenda 2063 for regional integration, for the movement of people and persons. And it also deals with issues of anti-trafficking, illegality, and so forth. So the protocols of the AU and that of SADC don't call for disorderly, irregular, and illegal migration. So migration must be orderly, must be regular, and must be legal, which is what the South African government has to do to ensure that migration is within the parameters of the law, it's regular, it's orderly, and it is within what our laws prescribe. The only issue that all of them do raise, which is what I've already said, is that where there is a challenge of irregular and illegal, including undocumented immigrants, it must be dealt with in a human way. It must be dealt with by law enforcement, not private individuals and groups that are not mandated by the laws of that country. So that is what we have to continue to deal with and to respond to. And we will continue to engage across the continent with various countries to put this into perspective, And the debate that has been set by Ghana, as I've said, these protocols have been there, and the debate at the African Union has been on migration. South Africa is one of the highest receiving countries of migrants, both regular and irregular. And on irregular one, I believe we are the #1 country in the continent, followed by Egypt and Ivory Coast in West Africa. The second point that was agreed upon is that South Africa, as a sovereign country, has a right to enforce its immigration laws, just like Ghana has the right to enforce its own immigration laws. But what they then raised as Ghana is the issue of the violence that accompany the current protests, or the protests as they erupt in South Africa in relation to immigration, not only this one, but the previous ones. This is an issue that they have raised, the enforcement of the laws by individuals, private groupings, and what they characterize as what they view as impunity, because since that period they believe that there has not been arrest of some of the perpetrators that impersonate Home Affairs officials, police officers, and so forth. And we did respond that the South African government has acted. There have been arrests of those who are impersonating police officers, and I'm glad that the chair of the IMC has outlined those numbers of the people that have been arrested for impersonating of police officers, and those that have been involved in looting, housebreaking, and so forth during this protest. There remain specific cases of Ghanaian nationals that have been killed, murdered, like the one that was murdered in Nyanga, on the matter that the police have said is an extortion case. It remains an active investigation by the South African police. So we were able to demonstrate that there is work that law enforcement is doing with regards to these cases. It's not a situation of impunity. There is action and there is work. And as I have said, on the issue of the enforcement of immigration laws, not only from Ghana, across the continent, there's an acknowledgement that every country, it's its sovereign right to enforce the immigration laws, which it must be done by any country within the boundaries of their own laws. And many countries that I have interacted with, the key issue they are raising is the violence, the enforcement by individuals, what they deem or see as impunity. So we are glad that there is credible information and evidence of action by the lawful authorities to deal with these matters. I must put it that that is incorrect. I went to Accra, Ghana, as the special envoy of the president, and I was well received by President Mahama, with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ghana, Mr. Blakwa, and his delegation, and we had a discussion. Firstly, the meeting reaffirmed South Africa-Ghana relations, that this matter on the table is not going to impact or affect South Africa-Ghana relations, because the relationship between Ghana and South Africa is enduring, has got a long history of solidarity under apartheid, but also beyond apartheid. South Africa and Ghana established long-standing, good, cordial relations that remains enduring to this date. And to date, there is also a number of South African companies invested in the Ghanaian economy. Some of them are leading companies in the Ghanaian stock exchange and in the markets. So the meeting was very robust, characterized by frankness on a number of issues that are emerging in our country. But that was the first point of agreement.